This presentation, titled What You Need to Know About Cloud Quality Audits, comes to us from Alka Jarvis. Alka has more than 30 years of experience in software engineering, including 19 spent in total quality management. Currently, she is the Global Software Quality Officer for Hibachi ABB. Previously, she was with Cisco Systems for 25 years and is Cisco's first and only Distinguished Quality Engineer Senior Director. Alka is a fellow of ASQ. She represents ANSI to help enhance the consistency of management system standards from ISO. In her role as the chair for 9 years, she has been instrumental in the development of the 2000, 2004, and 2008 versions of ISO 9001, as well as ISO 9004. She was a member of the drafting committee and contributed to the writing of the ISO 9001 2015 version. Alka is an ISO 9001 lead auditor certified by Exemplar Global for the past 20 years. And with that, take it away, Alka.
Thank you very much, Mike. So I picked this topic of what you need to know about cloud quality audits today is because whenever we are thinking about doing audits, we think that those audits can be done by a regular quality management systems auditor. Now think about it this way. If you had heart problems, would you go to a general practitioner or would you go to your cardiologist? And definitely you'll go to your cardiologist, who is a subject matter expert as far as the heart is concerned. Similarly, when it comes to cloud quality audits, or as a matter of fact, any different technology related audit, you need to have a subject matter expert who knows the subject inside out, who knows what to audit and can give you feedback, or else if that is against the principle, then at least give you a very good non-conformances so that you know where to improve. Let's talk about it further. What is cloud computing? Most people think that cloud is software, and that is not true. Cloud is related to services, and services add new requirements. What does that mean? That means that when you are using a cloud vendor, the cloud vendor is providing you a service or keeping your files, keeping your data secured, private, and ensuring that you are able to access the data whenever you need without any further delay. Whenever there are services, there are definitely new complications as far as service level is concerned. And I touched upon security and privacy. But also, when we talk about security and privacy, we just think about the hackers. But what about the people who work within the cloud service providers environment and they have access to your data? We will explore this and other items as we go along. So what are cloud services? There are 3 distinct cloud services offered right now. The first one is SaaS, software as a service, and that means that on demand, you are able to get a software on subscription basis. You really don't have to buy the software. Let me give you an example. As far as Microsoft Word is concerned, many of us just outright buy it. It could be anywhere from $395 to $595. But if you buy it as a software, as a service, that means that that particular product, that particular application is not in your hand, but you can use it. It's a subscription, and every month to use it, you are paying certain amount to the vendor. The next one is PaaS. PaaS is platform as a service, where the development and deployment applications to develop the applications on a platform. That platform is on subscription basis. You don't own the platform, but you are paying for it to run your application. And the third one is infrastructure as a service. That is the ability to monitor different computers, your storage, your network, and it allows you to purchase resources on demand when needed, meaning that you can access computers, monitors when needed. You don't have to buy these things. And it really eliminates the need of on-premise hardware. That means your compute, your storage, and your network. All of this is on subscription based. And you say, what is the advantage? The biggest advantage is when you have network, storage, compute, all of this in your own environment, you have to have people to monitor, to run, and to maintain. You save all that money, but of course you will pay for subscription of infrastructure as a service. But many companies have found that that's still cheaper than having a full-fledged storage of the data or network. Because now you're talking about having different hardware, maintaining it, hiring right people. And if it breaks down, then once again, if you don't have the subject matter experts, then you're relying on a third-party vendor to come and fix that. So for this reason, cloud is not software. These are all services that are being provided so that you can use cloud. You know, cloud computing is not a new thing. In the 1960s, we used to call it remote computing. What was remote computing? Remote computing was where you would not have the computer, but when you log on to your own personal computers, you are able to derive your data, your files, work on it, and save it. But you have no idea where they're saved. The same concept is on cloud. We are using it on everyday life. On your computer, your iPhone. Many of us know that iPhones are being backed up. Do you know where your iPhone is backed up? Which cloud provider? And I know for sure that I am paying X amount every month to have my iPhone backed up in cloud. So in case if something goes wrong, I can retrieve all my emails, I can retrieve all my contacts, all my text messages that comes on my iPhone from the cloud. We use cloud computing all the time. It's just that some of us really don't know what it means. Cloud revenue has been increasing, meaning that if I'm a cloud vendor and if I'm providing the services, my revenue has increased in 2020 or 2021 substantially than in 2008. In 2008, we were not even thinking about cloud. We were not even thinking about storing our data in cloud. So you may say, why now? Some of the reasons we have already covered, because if you have cloud, buy a different service, buy a different vendor, then you do not have to buy the hardware to maintain your network. You do not have to hire people. You don't need that space. You save a lot of money. But at the same time, think about normal people like you and I, who may be working from home, not in a company, but just writing books, for example. I remember when we had the fires in California, and over 1,000 household structures got burnt. I remember reading a story about an author who had spent almost 2 years doing the research and writing a book. All his transcripts were gone in the fire. His hard work of 2 years. What is he telling you? That even our home computers need to be backed up someplace in cloud, so that if some disaster strikes, then you are able to download your data from the cloud. And cloud revenue is increasing by leaps and bounds every single day. It's small businesses, it's large businesses, many companies who are large, they're also going to a third-party vendor for cloud services. So when you are auditing cloud, and that's our topic, what are things that you would look for? The first thing is robust development process. And you would say, yeah, but as a quality management systems auditor, I look at robust development processes anyway. But the complexity with cloud increases because you want to find out how are the cloud algorithms written. And as far as development is concerned in cloud, it is very closely aligned to security. Because anybody can go in cloud and access your data. And when we say development process, we also mean the testing. Testing is part of the development. And why are we talking about testing? Because in cloud, there are service level agreements that says that if I want to access my data, it should not be more than 2 seconds, or it should not be more than 1 second. Looking into somebody's development process, which also includes testing and coding, you are going to have some insights as to how it was tested, whether performance testing was done, or whether stress testing was done. More critical in cloud to do stress testing than any time before. Because if it's a large company and all their data is in cloud, and let's pretend for a second that it's 73 to 75,000 employee company, and they're all located in one single geographical location, they are going to access many of the files at the same time. If in the development, the performance testing, the stress testing is not done, it will definitely negatively affect the performance of the response time from cloud to the user. As far as infrastructure is concerned, how is the cloud infrastructure developed? Here we are talking about the architecture. And the reason why you want to look for the architecture is to make sure, once again, the response time, but also to make sure that there is enough memory that if 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 people are accessing the same data at the same time, they are able to access it. Infrastructure and solid architecture, that goes hand in hand. We talked about security. And I also briefly touched that security these days does not mean the hackers. Security these days also means who within the cloud vendor has access to your data. Hey, look, in today's day and age, we all know that a lot of things can happen with disgruntled employees who are not happy with the employers and who are not happy with their working environment. If this employee gets hold of the data of customers, this is a huge security issue. So within the cloud vendor, within their facilities, who has access to your data? How secure is your data? Because your data could be your bank accounts. It could be your social security information. It could be your passport copies. It could be any personal information that you do not want a third person to get hold of. And but of course, what type of metrics does the cloud vendor have? We will talk about metrics as we move forward. But these are a high-level things that you really, as an auditor, need to know and need to look for. We talked about robust development process. We talked about testing. But in CI/CD environment, which is continuous integration, continuous deployment, which is the agile development, what kind of entrance and exit criteria are there? What kind of phase escapes are there in a company? And if it comes to security, in which phase of system development lifecycle is that security really considered? In many companies I audit, I see that security is literally after the code is written. They start thinking about, oh my God, there was a security requirement. Did we really include it? Well, as far as security is concerned, you need to start looking at the design documents. You need to start looking at the architecture of the system. How are the designed documents portraying the requirement of security there? You should be able to not only see, but evaluate that architecture and see if there are any holes there. If you're not familiar with security, if you're not familiar with development process, how are you going to do it? That is the reason we need a subject matter expert to do audits of special technologies. Cloud is a technology. Telemetry is a technology. Artificial intelligence is a technology. For all of this, Bitcoins is a technology. For all of this and more, such as digitization, is a technology. You need an auditor who specializes in it, not a quality management systems auditor. The auditor should be able to audit the elastic scalability. What is elastic scalability? It automatically increases the capacity of cloud to accommodate millions of records or to accommodate 5 records. And if there are 5 records, the individual or the user should be charged only for 5 records. But the system should be designed and architectured in such a way that there is scalability. So regardless of the number of users, regardless of number of transactions, it should allow you to go through. There should be no service failure because of capacity issues. This is something that needs to be audited. We talked about architecture and design before. Architecture needs to be globally available. The companies now, many large companies are global companies. The employees are in Africa, China, India, Japan, Europe, Australia, and you name it. Regardless, and the employees are traveling from one place to another. Regardless of where the employee goes, whether that employee is in America or whether that employee is in Japan, there should be consistent and predictable performance across the globe. The person should be able to access in 2 seconds. The system should not die down, should not lock down, regardless of where you are. Now ask yourself, if you're an auditor, how would you audit that? If you had no idea about the architecture of the system, the entity relationship between different components, the dependencies of different components, you won't be able to audit. Hence the subject matter expertise. Your cloud infrastructure should be fault tolerant. That's where your reliability comes in. Reliability says that if you are in 2 different zones, and if one zone goes down, there is another zone that is fault tolerant, picks up all the data, all the processing of the first zone. And here is a simple question to ask, saying, where is your second fault tolerant zone? And how do you test it? Could we see the results? And check those results out. Many companies test this by simulating failures of one zone to see if the second zone picks up the data. Many companies also do testing of the failure of both the zones and see if their backup recovery plan is working. So reliability, but of course, no potential customer would sign up with a cloud vendor unless they know that there is 100% reliability in the cloud services that's being offered. No downtime. If the cloud service is down, do you know how much it costs? Amazon outage, if it's for 1 second, it equates to $1,500 US. For those of you who are in Spain or who have gone to El Bulli restaurant, it's dinner for 3 there, which equals to $1,500. A minute comes to about 90,000 USD. 2014 BMW 650 Grand Coupe. is about 90,000 right now in the market. And for 1 hour, it is $5,400,000. In other words, if you are a service provider of cloud, you absolutely do not want to experience downtime, because your customers are not going to be able to access. And due to your service level agreements with your customer, you will have to bear that cost. We talked about security. Identity and access are the two most critical aspects of security. How does the system identify who is the valid user and who's the invalid user? And how does the system let a valid user access all the features that are allowable by the system for this particular user? Because there are certain features of a system where one person might be able to access, but the other person, you don't want them to know about it. For example, your payroll systems or your HR system. There you want the managers to access some of the data of the employees, but you don't want the employees to access other employees' secure data. The only way you can have a robust security is by fluid design that adapts to all the computers and smart devices all across the board. And when you're auditing, you need to literally say which devices have you tested security with. Because if it's 1 or 2 devices, that doesn't cut it in today's market. We know that there are 5 or 6 different mobile devices that people are using to do their daily work. And it will be perfectly okay to access the test records of all these devices from the company that you're auditing. So let's talk about the metrics. Now that we have talked about all these different things, what are some of the metrics you should be looking for? What are some of the measurements you should be looking for? Here is a very good list to start out with. And this list was compiled by looking at several cloud vendors who are offering the services, as well as users of cloud, to see what they would like to see measured. Infrastructure monitoring, network monitoring, security monitoring, compliance monitoring, which is, there are certain countries where there are standards, there are compliance, there are regulations as to how the cloud vendor needs to interact, what kind of services they can offer. We talked about identity and access monitoring, cost monitoring. How expensive is your cloud? How much is it costing you to run it versus how much is it costing you for, or how much revenue you're getting from the subscriptions? Simple mathematics. Availability and service level agreement monitoring. In your service level agreement, if it says that the customer is expecting you to have 2-second response time, you need to have a metric to measure that 2 seconds. Reliability, we talked about it, and usability. Usability says how easy is it for your users to log on to your cloud system? to access their files, to change something and save it. And if they want to get it back again, how difficult are all these steps? That is what usability is. How user-friendly is your cloud environment? When you're looking at availability as a metric, and you say, okay, availability means just uptime of a system. In cloud, it's different. It's uptime of applications, meaning software, uptime of servers, because if the servers are down, there's nothing you can do. And also in cloud, there are planned outages. What are planned outages? Planned outages are when the entire infrastructure may be reviewed or some maintenance activities might take place. When you are auditing, you want to look at all of these three things under availability, reliability, to see what the customer that you are auditing has in these three areas. Performance is your response and resolution time, and the throughput time. Resolution time says that if there is an inquiry in the system, what is the performance? Does it take 5 minutes? Does it take 2 minutes? Versus if you're just updating some data, which is also performance related. Security, we have talked about it. Data breach, attacks, threats, policy, and authentication, which is the access. We touched about usability, user-friendly. And the last one is user experience. This metric is user-centric. If the user experience is not good, the churn rate of the customer is going to be very high. They're going to leave you, who may be offering cloud services, and go to Amazon. They might leave Amazon and go to Cisco. They might leave Cisco and go to IBM. All of these companies are now providing cloud services. Number of active users. How many active users you have on your cloud? That tells you in 1 month, if you have 1,000 and after 3 months, you have 500, they say drop there. There must be some issues there. But if it is constantly increasing, that means you must be doing something right. And customer retention rate. Customer retention rate is a metric that you use anyway, whether it's cloud or non-cloud. But there is more emphasis placed in cloud because in cloud, you can lose customers left and right. Remember, cloud could be subscription-based. A customer might have signed up with you for 3 months. So if you're not careful enough and the customers are not happy, every 3 months you will be losing your customers. Versus in traditional setting, when a customer buys your application, they're stuck with it because they bought it. Here is a subscription. Customer service level agreements on availability. I briefly talked about it. If in your service level agreement, the customer says that I really want it 99% of the time available. Well, what is available? If it is available, but the features that the customer wants, they're not available, they're not working, is the system available? Or does availability means 24/7, whenever somebody signs in, there are no difficulties, there are no failures, and the application is up and running, or the platform is up and running. So in service level agreements, usually customers say 99% or 99.9.5% of the time, I want the system to be available. What you see on this slide is what is Amazon EC2 service level agreement looks like. How does it look like? And here is a very good example. When you are auditing, keep maturity level of the organization in your mind as far as cloud is concerned. Is this a level 1 organization where the organization is a beginner and they have no clue what they are doing? Is this a level 2 where the cloud vendor has certain activities, the results are there, and you feel a little bit comfortable in signing your agreement with that cloud vendor? A level 3 cloud vendor is a stable vendor who is providing you the cloud services. There are activities and processes that are adhered to, but there are some gaps where they might have some processes, but not 100% of the people are adhering to it. Then there is a level 4 cloud vendor that has defined best practices. They do everything that they have defined, that's written in their processes, their procedures. Everybody's trained. Everybody's required to adopt those processes. And then there's a level 5 cloud vendor that is exceptional, that does everything. They have continuous improvement practices on ongoing basis. And the reason why these levels are important is when you are auditing a customer who is either a cloud vendor or is a customer who's using somebody else's cloud. You need to figure out, if the customer is using somebody else's cloud, this somebody else, what is their maturity level in cloud? Is it level 1? Is it level 2? Is it level 3? Is it level 4? Level 5? And the reason why you want to find that out is, what are the risks associated with a low-level vendor that your customer may be using? There could be security risk. There could be architectural risk. Data could be stolen. Files could be stolen. Response time, because of the architecture, they won't get it, what they had hoped for. So for this, looking at the levels is something that you will benefit from. And then metrics, measurements are defined at each level, so that you can also, you as an auditor can say, okay, you're level 3. What are some of the metrics related to level 3 that you're using? This is my last slide. In closing, I want to emphasize once again, auditing cloud vendors and customers is different than normal QMS, quality management systems auditing. Each organization is defining their own cloud quality metrics and service level agreements. You need to look at those service level agreements. You need to audit your customer against those service level agreements. You need to know what DevSecOps best practices are. DevSecOps stands for development, security, and operations. In Agile world, DevSecOps is a very common terminology. And when you're auditing a cloud vendor, you are going to look into their Agile development, their security, and their operations. We've already talked about security, but one other thing that you need to emphasize on is customer-related metrics and trends in cloud, and also service level agreements where there might be some breaches, there might be some fines. And if you see that your customer was fined by their customers on cloud offerings, you want to find out what were the gaps. That is the easiest way to start an audit. With that, I want to tell you, now you know what to look for. And I hope that it is beneficial to you. There are a number of articles on how to do cloud audits. There are a number of books written on it also. And if this is where your passion is, please pursue it further. Thank you.
And thank you, Alka Jarvis, for that perspective on cloud-based quality management system audits. And that concludes this presentation.